they've never done. And I really hope this new president takes that seriously, because that is the narrative that I hear over and over and over again.
So you're currently awaiting the material.
I am waiting. I am waiting and waiting. And so I did say, instead of 60 some budgeting units, I will accept only 5, chosen at random. I used to do auditing. I want them chosen at random. And I said, and if you don't choose them randomly and you give me the ones that you think are the best, I will know it. I told her that to her face. I will know it. And then I'm going to ask for 5 more. And if I don't like what I see, I'll ask for 5 more. And I'm going to keep going until I get my answers. So not only did I ask for 3 years of actuals, then I want to see what are you budgeting? So what's your budget now? And then they said, oh, but it's too complicated for you to understand. This is really hard stuff.
You're kidding me.
No, very condescending, incredibly condescending. Oh yeah. Oh, this is too hard for you to understand.
From the president?
No, from others in her administration.
From the third assistant to the assistant.
Yeah.
Something like that. And so they're like, but it's all in code. So all of these subcategories don't have a description in it. It has, here's a code. And I'm like, great, give me the key to the code and I'm fine. Stop, blocking me from getting this information. And then they said, well, why don't you come in and, we'll spend 2 or 3 hours explaining it to you, explaining our budget to you. And I'm like, great, I don't want that. I want the data. Okay, I mean, they just keep going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
Don't you fear, Jason, are you allowed to talk at home?
A little bit.
All right. Don't you, when you guys are alone together at home, don't you have this suspicion that this layering and this bloating is evident all throughout government?
Oh, I would say absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. And we've got whistleblowers that have come to us and said that very thing. And so now we need to bear it out. And I'm on that new fraud prevention and agency oversight committee, and
Wonderful.
I'm having a blast.
Yeah.
I'm having a blast.
Yeah. Well, you're not going to be short of fraud to discover.
Correct. I was just messaging somebody today that, so there's a group on X, and they say they represent 480 employees at DHS. And I have been watching that. And they say things like, we know of $3 billion of fraud in DHS.
500 million is what's out in the public. They say they know of more.
Wow.
And yet their leader, whose name is currently escaping me, she just retired.
Jody Harpstead.
Jody Harpstead, not unlike Heather Mueller, walked away when the feathers hit the fan, and now Harpstead's wandering away. I've always told these guys, I don't think Harpstead's lining her own pockets. I don't think Heather Mueller lined her own pockets. These guys tell me I might be being a bit naive. I don't think Walz has lined his own pockets. What I do think is that they have no ability to exercise competence over this. It's too big. It's too multi-layered. The buck doesn't stop anywhere. There's no consequences for their behavior. There's just no consequences.
There's no consequences. And I would say that in my conversations with those that really know inside stuff, okay, I don't want to reveal any sources, but you can trust this source, okay? It was said to me that all of the laws, statutes, best practices, policies are all there. They are all there. Nothing needs to change. You know what needs to change? The will to enforce them.
Right.
The governor to say, you know what, I care about fraud. Stop doing this stuff. Because the most simple things are not done. Like, for example, autism centers, daycare centers. You would think that if you want to, license and continue to send money to one of these places, you would do a site visit.
Absolutely.
Unannounced, okay? An unannounced site visit. And you would actually audit the books when you get there. Do you think they do that?
No, they don't do that.
They don't do that.
No.
And in all of this, do you know how many people have either been reprimanded or lost their jobs over what we've heard out in the public?
Zero. Well, I think Walz is the worst governor in the history of the state. I'm not suggesting you say that. That's my belief. I started out in his camp and have fallen so far away that I can't reconcile him being governor. The fraud continues, and then he plays this, I'm just a knucklehead card. and it's not working. Getting back to the absence of the DFLers in the state house, can you envision? Well, it's impossible. You can't envision a scenario by which they don't come back, do you?
So they are in a really tough spot. They have dug themselves a very deep hole. I would guess this. Here's one path. Who knows what the Supreme Court will rule. So depending on what they rule, they could come back right away, or they could say, nope, we're not coming back until after the special election, which is going to be like the middle of March. It hasn't even been called yet. By the way, the governor broke the law, as you know.
Yes.
Even calling the writ prematurely.
Right.
So he got reprimanded for that. The Supreme Court knocked that back down. The earliest he can even call the writ, so call the special election, is February 5th, because it has to be 22 days after the start of session, which
Right.
if he doesn't recognize the House has started, I'm not sure that you can start the clock. But, that's a whole other story. And then after that, it's so many days after that. And some special elections, like my husband's was a 33-day special election from the time it was called. They can be shorter. But arguably, that special election won't happen until the middle of March. Are Democrats really going to stay away until the middle of March? We're going to be nearly done with all of our committee work by the middle of March.
Why are the Democrats convinced that you guys would not seat the Shakopee winner, whose name escapes me?
Tabke.
Tabke. The courts ruled that Tabke's victory is legitimate, even though 22 votes were missing. Do the Republicans have a plan to not seat Tabke?
So I would say this. Nobody has said publicly, this is what we're going to do. And that uncertainty is unnerving to the Democrats. We have not said we're not going to. We're not saying we will go. We are going to. Because here's what's happening is that the Republican candidate still has the option, so Aaron Paul still has the option to take it to the Supreme Court. He doesn't have to sit with the court hearing or the court determination. He has that legal option. He has not said whether he's going to do that or not. So that's another step that has to happen. Another step that could happen is that he could bring his case directly to the legislature. That's statute that is allowed. He could take it to us, and we could take up the matter whether or not we would seat him. We could have essentially like a court-like hearing at the legislature. So he still has that option as well. We are nowhere near saying, yes, we're going to do this, or no, we're not going to do this, because frankly, the courts are not, the path through the courts, the path to us isn't done yet. It's premature. It's another thing that's incredibly premature, and the Democrats are using it as an excuse to not show up to work.
And there's also a double standard when you look at it. Publicly, Melissa Hortman and other Democrats are saying we have to abide by the court ruling. But Tabke's own lawyer in the court ruling said this is not an issue for the court. It's an issue that should be decided by the legislature. So they're trying to play both sides of the issue.
Well, I hope for a minute people don't think the DFLers had if the tables were turned, I hope people don't think the DFLers would be magnanimous about this. It would be worse probably. And isn't it true that the DFLers created this problem? They knew Curtis Johnson was illegitimate. They knew he wasn't living in the area. Why did they let that go? I'll never know. Because they thought the seat was so safe, they didn't think anybody'd notice. Is that a good answer?
That's the most plausible answer.
Yeah.
Because absolutely people knew that he did not live in his district.
Including the guy running against him. And other people.
Yep, including the staffers that were part of the whole campaign. There's all kinds of people that knew. And so they decided, that was their decision, to run somebody that they knew full well didn't live there. So they cheated, right?
That's cheating.
That's cheating. Then they got caught. Then they got mad because they got caught. Yeah, this is where we are.
You know, the first time we visited with you, I was wondering how long you would do this. You seem to enjoy it, what you're doing.
I love this work.
Yeah.
I crazily call this my dream job. And the reason is because I have the ability to learn about issues, go as deep as I want, go anywhere in the world and study things. I have been all over the world studying things that interest
Have I
me.
paid for that?
No, I've paid for that.
Okay.
It is one of those double-edged swords. There are so many nights we get home and look at each other and say, why do we do this job again?
Yeah.
But it is when you can dig in or when you can help a constituent deal with a state agency, it makes the
Well,
job worthwhile.
you're going to get a lot farther than most people with your demands for the U of M, and it probably has surprised you that it hasn't been taken up before.
It does surprise me a little, although the longer I'm at the legislature, the lack of accountability is astonishing.
Mm-hmm.
The lack of the will to dig in and ask hard questions and get the information back and analyze it is astonishing.
Why?
Because
you can get away with it?
Because many members will just do what they're told, vote how they're told,
Yeah.
and they don't care, frankly.
And they're just cashing a check.
Cash in a check, just checking a box.
Falling in line.
Yeah. The checks aren't big, but I think for a number of people, it's the prestige that goes with the title and where it might take you after.
If you lost your legislative seat tomorrow, you could have a job. You'd work for a living. You'd have a job.
I would probably have many offers and many opportunities.
Right. But that's not true with too many legislators. This is a career for them. This is what we're electing too many people who've done nothing else except run for office.
So we have what I would call the activist legislator. And unfortunately, that cohort has grown astronomically. And I always say, look, if you want to run for the legislature, great. Have a full career, learn a whole bunch of different things, have different life experience, and then run and bring something valuable to the legislature. It annoys me to no end when people come with ideology and absolutely nothing valuable beyond that.
Amen. That's basically the theme of this show. Kenny is behind you. He has a question.
I don't know how to phrase this question. I'm afraid it might not make any sense, but I want to go back to 40B and Johnson. If the DFL would have pulled Johnson when we found out that he wasn't legit approximately a month before the election, and if they would have pulled him, put the next guy in his place, do you think that guy would have won or lost the election? I'm trying to figure out why they allowed this to happen.
Yeah, I don't know why they allowed this to happen. I don't know why this particular person was their golden child, especially when he obviously had a beautiful home outside of the district and rented a 450 square foot terrible little apartment that he never apparently occupied inside the district. But I don't know. And so there's also something about election law. So once you have been put on the ballot, you only have a few days to. So let me put it this way. So if you sign up to run, right, you file the affidavit and you are on the ballot, you have a few days where you can withdraw your name. Beyond that, you're on the ballot. You're on it, and that's it. So it's a lot of this has to do with election law and the choices that the Democrats
They
have.
knew about this guy in August.
Okay, you
Right,
guys.
but
Then
this all happens back in May and June when you're filing with your intent to run.
Oh.
And short of the person passing away,
Right.
it is next to impossible to just replace them on the ballot.
All right.
Okay, so this situation that we're in today with them not showing up for work, are they profiting over this? Is this good for them compared to if they would have gone through all of those shenanigans that Jason just mentioned? Do you understand? I'm not even sure if I understand me at this point.
In other words,
I can
help you. I can help you.
Go ahead.
What's in it for them to hold out?
Yeah, why is this the better option?
So it's all about power. This is about them not wanting to give up even an ounce of power. When after the election and there was so before these election contests, the House of Representatives was tied 67-67 when it was discovered that the Democrat candidate cheated, didn't live in his district, and the court threw it out. And the evidence of that was overwhelming, by the way, overwhelming. They're like, oh crap. Now they know that we have a functional majority. We have an organizational majority. Now, can we pass bills with 67?
You don't know yet.
Well, we're pretty sure we can't pass a bill with 67, but who knows what the courts will say, something different. But they do not want to give up any power. They don't want to give up half of the speakership. They don't want to give up half of the power of the committee. And they have had in the House full power for 6 years.
Right.
And then in the last 2 years, they had the trifecta.
Right.
And you saw what they did.
So the state's ruined.
But Marion, this is hurting DFL voters. Like you said at the outset, DFLers in the House who are not activists, who are actually good at their job, and together, Republicans, Democrats, you get stuff done. This is hurting DFL voters just as much as, well, it's hurting the whole state, all of us.
It's hurting the whole state. It is hurting the reputation of, I don't know if I have any blue dog Democrats left in the House. Supposedly there's some in the Senate, but the reasonable, talented, thoughtful legislators that are Democrats, it is hurting them.
Yeah.
The historical perspective too, I'm sure you've talked about the 79 election going into the 80 legislature was 67-67.
Right.
Both parties at one point had a member down. The Democrats had a heart attack, a member suffered a heart attack, and the Republicans had a member that had some other type of attack, was in the hospital. But neither one stayed away from the Capitol while they were at 66. They showed up with their full membership, knowing they were going to be outvoted. But they showed up and voiced their opinions. They were there representing their people. And so the Democrats are not following that historical precedent that was set.
I would say that, what's that, 44 years ago, things have really changed in the legislature. Really changed. Here's the Democrats demanding power sharing. Well, you're not there to talk about it. You're not there.
Well, and we also are not tied. And to presume how this election, which hasn't even been called yet, so the governor hasn't even issued a new writ. He hasn't even called a new special election. We don't even know for sure who the candidates are going to be.
Right.
And who knows what the Democrats and Republicans and independents in that district think now. To presume the outcome is criminal.
So with no budget, does that mean we're going to start closing things that are state-run around around the state, parks, etc.? Is no budget a good budget? You know what I mean?
No. So let's talk about that. So the courts in the past have done what's called, they would do like emergency appropriations. They have since said, we are not doing that. We are not the legislature. You guys got to figure out your stuff and get a budget passed. So this is what's going to happen. If there truly is no budget and no budget area has been passed, you're going to see things like this. The state troopers will not get paid. The prisons will not get paid. Everyone that works at the state prisons, all 11 of them, will not get paid. The mental hospitals, the state mental hospitals, Anoka and St. Peter's, will not get paid.
Any of the funding that goes to counties for services for children.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
The nursing homes will not get paid. So you just go down the line.
See, I'd do it completely differently, and I would say all the bureaucrats wouldn't get paid. All the DEI employees would not get paid. They don't do anything anyway, as far as I'm concerned. So I would do that completely differently, but that's not the way it's going to be done. You're right. The people who don't get paid will have an effect on the population of Minnesota who doesn't get paid. The U of M work that you're doing, that's just a small part of your daily work, isn't it?
It is a small part. I am the chair of the Higher Ed Finance and Policy Committee. I also serve on the Fraud Prevention and Agency Oversight Committee, and I'm having a blast because we are going to be exposing and taking whistleblowers' comments, by the way. We've got a website up and going that is a part of the legislative website. So if you are a whistleblower and you want to expose something that of fraud, waste, and abuse in state government, please look up our Fraud Prevention and Agency Oversight Committee website and submit your whistleblower information. So we are going to start our first committee hearing on Monday, and it's going to be amazing. So the Center for the American Experiment will come in. So Bill Glahn, who is a dear friend, Bill, you know Bill Glahn,
Yes,
right? So
yes.
he's going to come and do a full run through of all the fraud that he's been made aware of as he's gathered all this information. So he's going to start. We're going to, we've already asked, you talked about Jody Harpstead. We've already asked Jody Harpstead, while she's still commissioner, to come in and talk to us. We have yet to get a reply, but we do have subpoena power.
I've gone through this before, but I got to take the opportunity with both of you here to run through this and see if you have an answer, a very candid answer. Let's go back to food fraud. How could it be that checks kept getting written for millions and millions of dollars, and they have apparently an invoice, phony or real, in front of them that says, what's the small town up north that fed more people than the population of the town?
Wasn't it St. Cloud or
No,
was
not
it
St. Cloud.
Staples?
Pelican Rapids.
Pelican Rapids.
That's
Let's
what
say
it
it was
was, yeah.
Pelican Rapids. Wow, my God, didn't anybody look at that and say, well, wait a minute. There's only 2,500 people in Pelican Rapids total, and yet they're feeding 37,000 people a day, or whatever it was. Those aren't even.
The math didn't add up.
Those are exaggerated figures, but it wasn't far off. How come it was never on the news? Why didn't we see lines of kids around the block waiting to get fed? And yet these checks kept getting written. And I even hold the Department of Agriculture in Washington. The same thing would apply to them. What did they say? Man, those people in Minnesota are really feeding a lot of kids, huh? Cut them another $65 million and send it out there. What the hell was going on? Help me.
Well, again, I'll go back to my initial statement that I had, which is the laws, the statutes, the policies, the best practices are all there. They know, employees of the state know what to do. They know how to follow the law. And they did not collectively, I won't say the rank and file person, because I do believe that they did, send it up the chain. But somewhere someone got an order to say, don't worry about it, just get the money out. Because there wasn't the will for the oversight.
Mother of God. That's crazy. So some guy in a cubicle,
Yep.
he gets it, and he must be thinking, well, I can't raise an issue here. That might cause a disturbance if I raise an issue. So he or she passes it on to the next level up, the next level up, next level up, the check goes out.
We are going to uncover all of that.
You're going to find that, aren't you?
We're going to uncover all of that. And I'll say, Andy Lugar, so
Yep.
he's the U.S. attorney, right,
Yep.
for Minnesota.
I wish Trump had retained him now that he's hot on this.
I would agree wholeheartedly with you. I've seen the work that he's done, and thank God for Andy Lugar, because say like Mary Moriarty or John Choi.
Useless.
Right, correct. And even our AG, worthless.
Governor, useless.
So thank God for Andy Lugar, really. And I watched his press conference live when he said, well, I can prove that $500 million of fraud happened. But, or was it 250? So
250.
Okay, so I can prove 250. Thank you. Prove 250, but I know I can see that 500 million went out. So Feeding Our Futures wasn't a $250 million fraud. It was over 500. He just, and if you watch the news, like he goes, oh, well, I found another 60. I found another 50. So you have to add up all of that too. And I was watching it, but he clearly said in the press conference, I know that there was over $500 million in fraud. I can prove today, when he first started this journey, 250. Now I have looked for that initial, that clip, because I watched it live. I could not find it. It's been scrubbed or something. Like I'm like, I don't know where that clip went, but I watched it live. I wrote it down. I made a mental note. I don't forget things, right?
Here's my question, because Joe and I
Jason can
disagree
attest.
about
Jason's
this.
going, you never forget a
You
thing.
never forget. Joe and I disagree about this, but the cynic in me is of the belief that those that kept saying, "Yep, stamp it, ship it, get the check out," that some people on the inside have to have possibly been on the take.
I want to weigh in here. I think both you and Joe might be looking for malice where ignorance is actually the answer. When that guy saw that Pelican Rapids went through 65 mil, instead of going, wait a minute, he goes, oh my God, they spent it already? We better send them another 65. They're really doing good. Do you think it's just that?
No,
just stupidity?
Yes. I think Walls has it lined in his pockets because he's too stupid. I just don't think he did it.
I would suggest some of both, though. I think some of this has been a way to help support past supporters.
I'll be damned.
Oh, Jason, dropping the bomb. I
No,
like that.
I have a feeling, Marion, you can come back to us with some bombs dropped, maybe this session yet. If your first public hearing is Monday for the fraud committee.
It sure is. 8:15 Monday morning.
Oh boy.
I know, bright and early.
Before you show her the door, Joe, what's in the stack, Marion? Is there something you really want to get to before we usher you out?
Well, we did U of M.
Oh, I got more about the U of M.
I bet you do, yeah.
Just really quickly, and so I can come back another time to talk about this, but if you saw the Alpha News story about MPPOA and that the University of Minnesota gave out this community award to this group called, Communities United Against Police Brutality, right?
Right. Yep.
So this is an activist organization, and just really quickly. So
No, you take your time.
all right. You know me and my data.
I was going to say, you guys are the one to have a meeting, not us.
So I like to dig a little. So
Good.
I did a little digging on this Communities United Against Police Brutality. And we invited her to come and, explain about her organization. Mm-hmm. We invited MPPOA to come in and tell us why they had an issue with them.
And MPPOA is,
So that's the Minnesota Police or Peace and Police Officer Association.
right?
And so MPPOA showed up. This Communities United Against Police Brutality did not show up, but they sent a letter because apparently the president, Michelle Gross, had to go to, I think it was St. Thomas University to indoctrinate some more kids and then do a press conference. Oh, did I say that out loud? I said
know.
the
You
inside
didn't mean
stuff out
to,
loud.
did you? No.
Well, I wouldn't have said it until after the committee hearing, where I found very clearly a long-standing relationship with the University of Minnesota, where, in fact, I got a whistleblower call me right before this hearing who said that this organization comes in and they do seminars and programs and whatever at the University of Minnesota, and it's a funnel of vulnerable students into their organization, and they teach them how to be activists. Now,
And we're paying for that.
so, right. I mean, it's
The U is paying them
the University of Minnesota,
when they're getting the money from the taxpayers.
by and large,
Yep.
or off the backs of students and their families
Right.
through tuition. So there's a few revenue streams, obviously, at the University of Minnesota. But this woman, so she didn't show up, but she sent a letter and she says things like, we're an all-volunteer organization and we've been around for 25 years. That's what she said. This is the exact quote. Communities United Against Police Brutality is an all-volunteer organization in our 25th year. Okay? So any reasonable person would think this organization's been around for 25 years, right? And that's what it says. Okay. Well, I went to the IRS website. I used to work in nonprofit over 20 years. So I'm like, well, let's just look at their IRS letter of determination, which means this is when you've become an organization. This is when you are officially recognized by the IRS. You can take tax-deductible donations, all that kind of stuff. What do you think the date is? Do you think it's 25 years ago?
25 years ago, like she just said.
It's got to be 25
right.
years ago.
Right?
Faith in humanity.
June 25th of 2020. What was happening in 2020?
Oh, man.
George Floyd
Right.
weekend.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Wow.
And guess what? So when I look back at her 990, from 2020. So that's her revenue, expenses, all that kind of stuff. It's true. They didn't have any paid staff. They had all volunteers. But they had an interesting large revenue amount in the first year that they existed, which was $1.5 million. That's pretty darn good for a brand new, newly startup, whatever. Yeah. And it was on the 990 as contributions. And it was on the 990 that at least one or more of those contributions was in the amount of $5,000 or more. And then they clicked the box that said, but we're not disclosing who they are. That raises red flags with me. So I'd like to know, where did this $1.5 million come from? But she didn't show up, so I didn't get an answer. But in any case, so this organization has had a very long relationship with the University of Minnesota. And she says in this next sentence, through the University of Minnesota, or their service and learning program, we have worked with hundreds of students over our history. Many of these students have returned to work with us for additional classes or to volunteer. There you go. I know she took a busload of these kids up to Paul Gazelka. Do you remember Paul Gazelka?
Sure.
Okay, up to his business to protest his business because they didn't like whatever it was he was doing at the time. So, and I asked the University of Minnesota, since they've given this group a community award, not once, but twice. The first time they did it was in 2021. And then in 2024, they got this community award for outstanding service to the community. Well, then we had MPPOA come, right? And MPPOA was like, well, let me tell you what they're all about. Because they've said that this group does nothing but talk about hateful things and lie about what's actually happening against police officers. So I have an entire stack of things from their social media, press releases, and all kinds of things that are vile, to say the least, but also completely and utterly false. They put out false narratives that, by the way, endanger police officers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's what this is. This is an entire stack, two-sided, of nothing but their lies.
I'm not reassured about anything except I'm reassured that you and Paul are on the job.
That'd be Jason.
I'm Jason. I'm sorry. Yeah, are on the
Welcome
job.
to the club, Jason. You get called by the wrong name. Then
You're
you're
one of us now.
Yeah, you know what I meant. I was close enough. This has to become more frequent, these visits, okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we'll do it. And Marion Rarick and Jason Rarick, thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
And we'll definitely have you back soon, okay? Are you cool with that?
I would love to come back and tell you what we've discovered in the Frog Committee, in my Head Ed Committee.
She'd love to come back and anger all of us once again.
Just don't back down on the U of M. Go after every angle you can.
Well, I'll tell you this. So that before I leave, I have just done a new data request, and I want their top 100 salaried people.
Oh, good.
I want them in order, names, their titles, their job description, and their salary.
What was it, number one, PJ Fleck?
Well, I haven't gotten it yet.
Oh, okay.
But yes, PJ Fleck is $1 million something. But
Sure.
No, way more than $1 million something.
okay, you know.
Yeah.
You know what.
Yeah,
So I know that their new president is right around $1 million.
right.
But
She
yes,
doesn't even get to live in her own house because the governor's got to live there while we spend $10 million fixing up that dump that isn't worth $10 million on Summit Avenue. Other than that, I think it's fine.
I mean-
yeah. Thank you both. You're wonderful, and I appreciate it greatly. And I think Garage Logicians have received a wonderful, wonderful look into what's happening. We'll be back in a moment. is in a hurry. I don't blame him.
Finally, thank God today.
We're all in a hurry, Joe. We're thirsty.
TGTI Friday.
The next time Marion is here, Marion Rarick.
Scramble!
Hey, Russ,
You got
before
it,
you
yeah.
leave, will you let Mike Fredoloni in?
The next time Marion's here and Jason, we're going to make that the whole show because she comes ready for.
I think it's safe to say that Marion had done more show prep for her appearance today than most of us have done. And
Not me.
Don't
include me.
Chris. No,
Speak for yourself,
I'm
Chris.
just kidding.
Only
Come
because
on.
they come to us all the way from Lake Las Vegas, Nevada, temporary home of the traveling Lymans. It was on this day.
Joe, today is Jan 24.
In 1848, citizens of St. Croix County, Wisconsin Territory, protested a plan to incorporate their county into the new state of Wisconsin. St. Croix County became part of Minnesota Territory in 1849. It was on this day.
124.
Suffering from dyspepsia, heart disease, and depression, Justice C. Ramsey, younger brother of statesman Alexander Ramsey, committed suicide in St. Paul. After winning $10,000 in a lottery, Justice had arrived in Minnesota from Pennsylvania in 1849, invested heavily in real estate, served in the territorial legislature. In early August 1862, he was one of a party that attempted to deliver an annuity payment in gold from the U.S. government to the Dakota. The Civil War delayed the gold's arrival from Washington and put the Dakota in a state of deprivation and near starvation, factors leading to the start of the U.S.-Dakota War on August 18, 1881. Ramsey and his companions reached Fort Ridgely on Aug 20, the day before it was attacked, and remained there during the siege. Unable to disperse the money, the party later returned with the kegs of gold to St. Paul.
You know who will never suffer from dyspepsia?
Who?
I won't, because I only drink Diet Coke.
That's right.
Yes.
On this day, finally, on this day,
January 24th.
in 2005, Minnesota Public Radio's local music station, The Current, hit the airwaves for the first time at 9:01 a.m. The first song played is Say Sh by the Minneapolis rap duo Atmosphere.
Oh, Atmosphere's sweet.
Yeah.
Atmosphere is wonderful.
Yeah.
And they've been going downhill ever since.
I believe the governor made an appearance today on The Current.
No, they don't. They haven't been going downhill. I like The Current, but I do think they play too many female artists who don't have strong voices.
How about if you play somebody that has a drummer in the band and somebody who's not afraid to turn the guitar up? Let's go.
Yeah, once in a while, huh?
Jeez.
Is there a lot of this?
Pathetic hipsters.
No, they're good. They're
a bunch of hipsters.
well, they are hipsters, but they're not playing hipster music.
I
will say,
want guitar.
the coolest thing that station ever did was the weekend that Prince died. Didn't they go A to Z every single song he ever recorded?
Well, I think that was a no-brainer for everybody who had a radio transmitter.
No, but I meant they did everything he
Yeah.
recorded. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Very good, thank you.
Okay.
And thanks to the Raricks.
For taking time out of their busy schedule just to join Garage
I
Logic.
think she'll work all weekend on this stuff.
She will. Please do us a favor. Hit subscribe on the Garage Logic YouTube channel, because on the Garage Logic YouTube channel, you can watch the show each and every single day, starting right around noon on the Garage Logic YouTube channel. There's also full segments, video shorts, behind the scenes footage in some cases. It's all there for you. You can also follow us along on all of our social media channels, which includes X, or Johnny Heights' favorite site, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and also sign up for the Daily Logician. It's an email. It comes right to your inbox each and every single day. It also, in some cases, if you're a town council member, includes a weekly note from the mayor himself. It's called Saturdays with Such. That'll hit your inbox tomorrow. Bye. It'll be fantastic. Yeah. See you, Rook.
Yeah.